Now, what accounts for this unhappiness? Let's try and get down to it. Is it because there's a perception of a lack of accountability, lack of explanation, perception otherwise? There is the sense that the government is not being sufficiently transparent. The government is not being accountable. There's obviously a greater and increased demand for accountability, right?
Whether government or public companies, I see the two private companies as because you operate public service.
Yeah, but I think it's the total system.
It's a total system, right? Non-transparency.
Yeah,
right? Non-transparency.
So let's talk about that. How could the government or the PTOs in this case, could they have been more transparent in the way they went about this?
In my honest opinion, the Singapore government is actually quite transparent. All the information is available online. You can go to their different government websites and download all the data. The one mistake that they made, and this was a very, very fatal mistake, it was 5-6 years ago, they made the conscious decision not to engage the public on the internet, on social media. And when that happened, there was a vacuum. And this vacuum was obviously filled up by a lot of people, about a lot of anti-government rhetoric. And now they are trying to bring it back, trying to claw it back. They're going online. You can see all the publicity, PR blitz that's going on. You've seen, they even have a Twitter. The Singapore government even has a Twitter.
But it's all coming across as PR.
Exactly. That's the thing, because now people, when they look at these efforts by the Singapore government, they think, they're just trying too hard. What are they trying to do? We already made up our minds that the Singapore government isn't doing the job.
Okay, so
I think, look,
please.
Okay, I think it's ironic we're talking about transparency with regard to public transport, because I think the public transport fare mechanism is actually completely transparent. I mean, you have a formula out there. You can question the formula. You can say, why is it like this? But at least there's a formula, right? And there's a predictable schedule of fare reviews. I mean, what's not transparent is the decisions taken in many other countries where they decide this year I'm going to have a fair review, next year I won't. I mean, we don't know why they do or don't. I mean, the point is, you can disagree with it. I think people should, in fact, investigate and ask questions about it, but I don't think you can fairly level the charge that it's not transparent. Yeah. It's transparent enough that you can exactly point at the formula and say, look, I don't like the formula, I don't like this part about it. You see?
It's not that you don't like the formula. The formula doesn't make sense.
Right, but you can make a criticism because you have a formula.
Therefore,
you have a formula to look
means providing the information for me to make sense. Not just say, look, it's there. Read it, it's information. Information is not enough. Is the information relevant? Does it answer the key question?
Okay. Yeah. So actually, Walter, you may disagree.
Okay.
You may disagree. Yeah. But I think you also have to listen to the other point of view, right? And we have to be careful not to be overly dismissive.
Okay.
Yes. So the first thing is, there are technical means available for the transmission of information and knowledge. Yes?
Yes.
That's the point you're making.
Yes.
But technical means does not necessarily translate to transparency.
Yes. That's
right. You may have the means, but you may not use it in a manner that is transparent, that is sufficiently honest, whether it's perceived or otherwise.
Yes.
Your point, Walter, is that this government is transparent sometimes to a fault, because it actually puts everything.
I wouldn't say to a fault, but I would say at least in the area of public transport.
I added that.
I wouldn't say to a fault.
But you put all the cards on the table. This government is known for that, putting all the cards, whether it's population planning policy,
in some areas.
It's to put all this on the board. Say, we want to be judged by it. Okay, that's the plus side. All right. Then, Michael, your point is, are you taking on board the criticisms when you put these cards on the table? Now, there's a perception that even though I'm putting the equation, I'm putting the formula on the table, and I'm asking for your views, I'm not paying enough attention to the views that are being communicated. Now, would you consider that sufficiently transparent?
I think that's a completely fair point. I mean, I think
then why didn't you acknowledge that earlier on? Michael was trying to say that.
Right?
Michael was trying to say that.
But on the issue of fairness, right? I think fairness is something for human beings to adhere to. I don't think that fairness is something that we necessarily should demand and expect from companies, right?
No, we're talking about the whole system.
But in the system as a whole, right? I think it's fair for the government to put out a review mechanism. It's fair for them to put out the formula. I think they give people a fair shot at criticizing it, but I don't think we can all expect that every single one of our criticisms gets adopted 100% by the government. So, I mean, I think your perception is that they might hear you speaking and they don't take any of your concerns on board at all. But, I mean, why do you think that's the case? I mean,
on the contrary, we know what is fairness. We may not be able to define it, but we know when it's not fair.
Okay.
You see? Right? Now, where is not fair? When you don't have to increase, you do it, and I have to suffer, or at least a few of us have to suffer. That's not fair. What's fair? You don't do it. Life goes on as normal.
Okay.
You are not worse off. I'm not worse off. That's fair.
Okay.
Huh?
I think that's a fair point, right? I mean, in the sense that what you're saying is people may not always be able to quantify the point about fairness. It's notional, right?